Hi everyone, this is a basic review of the do's and don'ts of writing an essay. So it's just the final review before you get into your final paper. So the first do is starting with a strong thesis. You want a topic, an opinion, and a rationale. So a good thesis should look something like this last thing right here, which says, in this case it says, pit bulls are dangerous to society and should be banned from major cities because they pose a threat to those around them. So in this case I have my topic, which are pit bulls, my opinion, which is that they're dangerous and should be banned from major cities, and I have my rationales because they pose a threat to those around them. Make sure you have all three elements to have a strong thesis. Don't have an unclear thesis. Absolutely no questions and no unarguable statements. The reason is that both of these leave the reader wondering what your point is and where you're going with your writing. Do put your thesis at the end of your introduction. Don't confuse the whole introduction with your thesis. The thesis is just the last main part of your introduction that kind of names exactly what you're proving. The rest of your introduction should be a hook, kind of luring in your reader, and then you should transition into the topic, and then finally your thesis. So trained readers are looking for a thesis at the end of the introduction. If you don't put it there, it can and will be confusing. So make sure you have your clear thesis at the end of your introduction. Don't make your reader guess what your thesis is. Even you can have a great introduction and still accidentally leave out your thesis. So really make sure you go back and name exactly what you're proving. So let's just read this one closely for a second. It says, few people would argue that a person in a densely populated city should be allowed to own a tiger. It is a dangerous animal that poses too much of a risk to those around it. Nevertheless, so many people never think twice about owning a pit bull, despite the fact that they are notorious for being aggressive and sometimes even fatal. Pit bulls are too dangerous. So this isn't necessarily bad writing, but the reader's left wondering, too dangerous for what? Or what are you trying to convince the reader to do or think? I've left off exactly what I'm trying to prove, which in this case is to say they're too dangerous for cities and that they need to be kept out because they pose a threat to people. You gotta get specific. Please make sure you double check your introduction. Make sure you actually have a thesis and that it's super clear. The next do is start your paragraphs off with a clear and general topic sentence. Again, this is all review, but some of you guys jump right into the statistics. And you have great research, and that's wonderful, but unless you have something that's a little bit more overarching, it can be kind of confusing to the reader as they wonder why are they reading these statistics. So if you have something general, like perhaps the most disturbing fact is that the dog owners or their families are the most in danger of being attacked by their pit bull, right off the bat, I know the focus just by reading this general topic sentence. Then all the statistics I can make sure support this topic sentence, and it'll help the reader easily navigate your writing. Don't overload information or rely on facts to explain themselves. Some things I've seen writers do, especially beginning writers, is just list fact after fact after fact. One, it's just a list. There's not much of your own writing, and that just doesn't look good. Two, there's no common topic or focus, and so readers kind of get lost and they're wondering how to process all this information, and in the end, they don't know how to interpret these facts. They don't know what they should think or feel about the facts, and so they'll make up their own thoughts and feelings, which, if they don't agree with you, isn't necessarily good. Do transition between ideas or paragraphs. So if I have a paragraph talking about the dangers and threats that pit bulls pose to people, and then I'm going to have a paragraph about the dangers and threats that pit bulls pose to other dogs, then I can just highlight that they both talk about threats to outside animals or people. So they're just an outside threat. And so find the common link between the two paragraphs and just highlight that in a transition sentence. Again, that can be the first sentence in a paragraph or the last sentence. Just make sure you have them. Don't end a paragraph with a quotation or any writing that is not your own. This kind of goes along with the overload of information, but it's going to make the reader wonder what they should think about the information. And finally, do connect your conclusion back to your hook. If you talked about a tiger, then talk about the tiger again, or whatever topic that you had, go back to it because it makes it look like you have control.